The enmity between Germany and USSR is ending. The difference in ideology and in the political system should not and cannot serve as an obstacle to the establishment of good neighborly relations between the two countries. This is how Soviet newspapers commented on the Non-Aggression Pact signed by Germany and the USSR on August 23, 1939. The document went down in history as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, after the two foreign ministers who signed it. The regimes of Stalin and Hitler, openly hostile until recently, now pledged not to oppose each other directly or indirectly. We will not go into the details about the pact itself, there is a lot of information about it. Instead, we will answer another question: how did inhabitants of the Soviet Union react to the fact they suddenly got new friends who were Nazis? Or fascist, this word was more common. The classified documents of the Soviet secret police, the NKVD, which reported to the party leaders on the mood of the society, will as always help us. My name is Pavlo, and you are watching KGB Files. Oceania had always been at war with East Asia. The Soviet propaganda after the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact can be summed up in this Orwell's quote. Numerous articles, posters, theatrical performances dedicated to the Hitler's crimes now disappeared from everywhere. The declared principles gave way to the realpolitik. And many Soviet people, as we can see from the documents, were shocked by such a political flip-flop.
Pyotr Pustakhod, a senior researcher at the Institute of Economics of the Academy of Sciences, said, "It's difficult to explain the reasons that prompted our government to change the course of its entire foreign policy so dramatically. What is going on? The fascists became our friends, and the so-called democratic countries found themselves almost enemies." I explained the rapprochement of Germany with the USSR by the common style of their regimes of one and another state, despite their ideological divergence. Employee of the People's Commissariat for Agriculture of the Ukrainian SSR Mikhail Balandovich. The Armenian nationalist Ter Stepanyan, closely studied by the NKVD, scolded the Soviet leadership for signing the pact and added, "In the coming days, we will hear how the leaders of the communists will adopt the program of fascism."
I cannot imagine what will happen to the anti-fascist propaganda now. The Soviet government now have to make major concessions and put up with the fascists to process the public opinion of citizens in a new way, since every pioneer knows that a fascist is our sworn enemy, and the friendship suddenly has begun. Writer Anatoly Shiyan. The credit agreement between the two countries was signed shortly before the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Germany provided the USSR with commodity credit. This credit was to be repaid by deliveries of Soviet raw materials. People did not expect anything good from this contract. They were afraid that Stalin would supply Hitler with a huge amount of food, and consequently a famine would begin. Kukharchuk, a typographer from Kiev. We must sell goods to Germany for 180 million rubles. We will supply them with meat, lard, butter and other products, and meanwhile we are currently starving ourselves. Other citizens believed the Soviet government. The agreement with Germany was a great success. The composer Boris Letashinsky did not regret words of praise addressed to Stalin and Molotov. The treaty with Germany is an act of the greatest wisdom and foresight of our government, which did not wish to defend the interests of French and British imperialism with the blood of its sons. Of course, Germany cannot be completely trusted, but is still certain that the signed treaty will greatly diffuse the atmosphere.
England wanted to push us against Germany in order to weaken our country, but it turned out the other way around. Taranucha, a researcher at the Institute of Zoobiology of the Academy of Sciences. The researcher at the Institute of Chemistry of the Academy of Sciences Kornev. I imagine if we did not have a treaty with Germany, we would now be anxious, troubled, because war is a very unpleasant thing. But now there is anxiety everywhere in the West, and everyone here is happy. Wherever Comrade Stalin takes part, everything will be okay, and the Soviet people can be calm. The driver of the communal plant Garovoy. Georgy Rostovsky, a locksmith at the Leninskaya Kuznetsa plant in Kiev, reasoned as follows. Let the world predators of the capitalist countries cut each other's throats, and we will only benefit from this.
Better a small peace with Germany than a big alliance with France. Now, two strong countries, Germany and the USSR, will jointly try to establish peace in Europe. Gradinsky, the professor of the Kiev Medical Institute.
The inhabitants of the USSR of German origin, like many other ethnic groups, suffered from repression during the years of the Great Terror. Wute, a German from Odessa, had his own reasons for welcoming the pact. Now it will be easier for me. From now, people will see me as a representative of an ally.
Today we know that there was an additional secret protocol to the treaty, according to which Hitler and Stalin divided the spheres of influence in Europe. The Soviet Union has not recognized its existence until the late 1980s, and even then, in 1939, for some people it was an open secret.
The Red Army Major Pereshevich said in a conversation with the Captain Strick, "In my opinion, the text of the treaty concluded between the USSR and Germany is not published in the newspapers in full. This is only an integral part of it, since because of these points which are published in the newspapers, it would not be necessary to conclude an agreement at all." There is no question about Danzig that needs to be discussed. Since there is now a loophole for Germany to capture Danzig, and the USSR will not have to intervene, Hitler will undoubtedly take Danzig. But since the Poles will resist, Hitler will expand his demands against Poland and try to completely dismember Poland between Germany and the USSR. There is a secret agreement on this issue between Germany and the USSR. Glevasky, a former employee of the prosecutor's office from Kiev. In my opinion, there is also a secret agreement between the USSR and Germany. There is a lot of talk about this among the people. This agreement obviously provides for the partition of Poland. Mikhail Balandovich, an employee of the People's Commissariat for Agriculture of the Ukrainian SSR.
Hitler deceived us. He could violate the treaty at any moment. War is inevitable. This was the alarming mood of another part of the society.
Peasant Grigory Rogozyuk from Communist Podilsky region. What a cunning Hitler! He managed to approach the USSR and conclude an agreement. Now Germany will defeat all countries and the USSR will sit and be silent. And then Germany will think about an attack on the Soviet Union. Melnitovsky, a worker from Kiev, said, "Here in Kurinovka, even children insist that we will definitely fight Germany." Germany made a treaty to calm the Soviet Union and attack it suddenly. Yurchenko, a peasant of the collective farm.
By the way, there is an idea that Stalin also was planning to start war and attack Germany, and Hitler was just faster. Having been a conspiracy theory, now this hypothesis is seriously discussed by specialists. Write in the comments what do you think about it and could it be true or not? And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell button not to miss new episodes. And if you do like our videos, you can support us on Patreon. The links are in the video description. Shortly after the signing of the pact on September 1st, 1939, the Third Reich attacked Poland. World War II began.
According to a graduate student of the Kiev State University, Padalka, the agreement was very useful in this situation. It's good that the pact with Germany has been concluded. Now we are calm, but if there was no pact, we would have fought. The question is, for whom? For Poles, our old enemies. The Soviet government, at the time of signing the treaty with Germany, knew for sure that Germany would launch an offensive against Poland and gave its consent to this. The researcher at the Institute of Law from Kiev, Lifshitz. NKVD documents also contain interesting information about the conversations between Polish Consul General Jerzy Matuszynski and Vice Consul Zdanevich on September the 2nd, the day after the German attack. Matuszynski, being in agitated, nervous state, said, probably to the agent, "You already know that we are at war with Germany. We will win. Your government a year ago considered us agents of Hitler, even called us fascists, and with whom you have now concluded an agreement? It's no secret that Germany offered us to go to the east, to take Ukraine. Eventually it will happen. Germany will go to the Soviet Union." Zdanevich said, "We are still surprised by the Soviet Union, which came to an agreement with Hitler. Victory is ours, but what will the Soviet Union have to do then? We will not support it. Recently, we have been getting along so well with you, and suddenly there is a paradox, an agreement with Germany." Saying goodbye to the agent, Matuszynski put it this way. On September the 3rd, the question of war will be decided. England and France will come out with us. Victory is ours. We will be in Berlin. The French and British this time will be smarter and will finish the Germans to the end. Tonight everything will be decided. Tomorrow we will wake up with a sharp break at the front. We will begin to move forward. Our aviation is closer to Berlin than the German one to Warsaw.
On September the 17th, the Red Army attacked Poland from the east. Two totalitarian regimes divided the country according to the aforementioned secret document.
Rumors that Hitler and Stalin decided the fate of Poland in advance are spreading even more these days. When our government signed a non-aggression pact with Germany, then we agreed on the division of Poland. Bershansky, an engineer from Poltava. The teacher Drozdowski commented on the news about the crossing of the Polish border by the Red Army in this way. The imperialist war, World War I, was honest, and this war is imbued with cunning and deception. A school worker from Zaporizhia, Praga, called Stalin's policy red imperialism and added that fascism is no different from communism. Hitler is carrying out his plan. Last year he took Austria, this year Czechoslovakia and Poland, and in 1940 he will fight the USSR, and then the Poles will help him for the fact that the USSR intervened in the war. Blonsky, a Pole from Kiev. The NKVD again cites the statements of the Consul Jerzy Matuszynski, who is already familiar to us. Poland as a state will be reborn. Our embassy will exist as the Czechoslovak one exists. We will all unite to fight the Germans and their friends, but the USSR will face a bad fate. The Germans are insidious. They will betray, and war with the USSR is inevitable. The annexation of Poland was being prepared for a long time. Our friends, France and then England, let us down. France gave birth to us, and it ruined us. The Soviet Union will not forgive us the indemnity imposed by Poland in 1920. The NKVD also notes that Matuszynski and other employees of the consulate wanted to leave the USSR as soon as possible, fearing for their fate. Since the Soviet government now considered the Polish state to be non-existent, the consular workers were now considered ordinary foreigners, not diplomats, and their arrest seemed quite possible. We know from other NKVD documents that Matuszynski's fears have been realized. He was arrested on the night of September 30 to October 1, on the personal order of the leader of Soviet Ukraine, Nikita Khrushchev. Probably later he was shot, but this is just an assumption. Now documents about the fate of the diplomat have been found.
And next time, we will tell you an amazing story that happened during this wild friendship between Germany and the USSR. The NKVD was investigating a destruction of a portrait of Adolf Hitler. Stay with us!